This episode and every episode of the Beer Guys Radio Show is brought to you by Ironmonger Brewing. Visit Ironmonger at their tap room in Marietta, Georgia, or online at ironmongerbrewing.com.
Open up a tab, grab a seat, and pour a pint. It's time for the Beer Guys Radio Show.
You want free beer? Go to the brewery.
Dedicated to the art, science, and enjoyment of craft beer.
Yo, what's wrong with the beer we got?
Now, here are your hosts, Tim Dennis and Brian Hewitt.
Welcome to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We're broadcasting from the Beer Guys Radio Studios in Marietta, Georgia. And this week, we're talking with Pipeworks Brewing. I'm Tim Dennis, and with me, as always, is my good friend and co-host, Brian Hewitt.
Hey, Tim. So joining us today, we have Nathaniel Morton and Scott Coffman, both of them brewers with Pipeworks Brewing Company, and Ricky Boehm, the director of sales. We're going to talk about the growth of Pipeworks, innovation at their greater scale now, and favorites like Ninja versus Unicorn and the Abduction Stout series, and probably some other things too. Guys, thanks for joining us.
Of course, glad to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
We appreciate it. We're sipping one of your beers right now. We just cracked into a little Velocity of Light, little DDH oat IPA here. So this is a mighty tasty.
Yeah, there you go.
It is. It's quite solid, Tim.
I believe you guys said you just got you a 30 rack of a very high quality beer over there, right? Is that right?
Of the highest quality.
We are living the high life.
I tell you what, though, I think that's the one I hear more brewers talk about when they're kicking back, just having a beer. A lot of them go for that high life.
They really do, yeah.
About it there. So, yeah. How are things in Chicago this week, guys? Ricky, how's it going up there?
It's great. We had this huge storm roll through the other day, took down a bunch of trees and messed up some of the neighborhoods. But other than that, yeah, Chicago's been great.
As long as you're not reading the news, Chicago's good.
Yeah.
As long as you don't read I think that applies anywhere. See,
It's very true.
You know, we're based in Georgia, so we've just been a train wreck here lately with all our COVID stuff. Our governors just throw the kids back in school, do this and that, and it's all going so well.
Yeah. I was trying to avoid the politics part of it. But...
I totally did. That's it. Beginning and end of that chapter. Let's move on to beer.
That's it. Yeah, there. Leave it there and go on, right?
It feels like a reality TV version of Will It Blend, basically. The
Right,
Georgia.
yeah, right.
Will It
Like,
Blend.
all right. Yeah.
Absolutely. Good stuff. Well, Brian, what'd you get into this week, man?
Well, you know, I did a little bit of running around, but I like to start off with my Drink Your Cellar pick. I got into a North Coast Old Stock Ale from 2014.
Delicious.
It was the Cellar Reserve Wheat Whiskey Barrel. Wow, that was good. That
I
was
bet.
so good. It aged very well. The I opened it up, a little pop, a lot of carbonation. I was actually worried that as much as it popped, that there might be some little additional unwelcome activity going on there. It was perfect. It was so good, so rich. And the funny thing is I bought that here in Georgia. It's actually over the legal limit in terms of ABV.
Snuck through, did it?
14.4%. So
Yeah.
6 years ago, somebody broke the law, apparently, without
okay.
knowing it. So
Hey,
that's
man,
great
do
stuff.
what you can there, right? Do you guys have a limit there in Illinois, ABV limit?
No.
See, that's what we get. We just saw recently, I think you're going to talk about this a little more later, Brian, that Goose Island announced the Bourbon County variants for this year.
Yes, indeed.
And a lot of times we miss out because ours is 14%. So a lot
Yeah.
of times we miss out because it crosses the threshold.
Didn't they have some that were like 14.3?
Yes.
We've had a few things, and they actually, a couple years they actually blended a special version like 13.7 or something like
something
that,
like
because
that.
there's a few states that kind of get hit with that. But
Yeah, I remember when that happened.
yeah,
And like some of them ended up here in Illinois, and people were like, "What?"
right.
Yeah.
What are you doing to us? What are you doing to us? Exactly.
Why would you do this to us? Why?
Yeah.
We're sorry to send you guys this session stout. We didn't mean to do this to you. So, yeah.
We count ourselves lucky if we get the main version every year, because some years
Yeah.
it's just under, some years it's just over, or if we get like
The barley wine seems to make it here.
Yeah, usually the barley wine does,
yeah.
and that's usually really good the
Sure.
years I've had it. So
Yeah.
yeah. So what did you get into, Tim?
Brian, I did something Saturday that I think is the first time I've ever done this, and it wasn't intentional. We talk about our crispy boys all the time. We enjoy our Pilsners, but I think this Saturday I drank nothing but light lagers.
You did. That's right. Yeah. You mentioned that.
Went around and visited a few places. We went over Tucker Brewing in Tucker, Georgia, lager brewery. They specialized on a bunch of different lagers there, and they've got a great Pilsner, TKR Pilsner. They just recently opened a kitchen there at the brewery, and we had a big old pretzel that actually needed a hanging scaffolding to hold the pretzel up.
Scaffolding,
Brian.
yes.
And got a little pot of beer cheese with it there. So check that out. Sat on the patio was really nice. We've been weird here in Georgia this year because we're getting up in the 90s. But to me, it doesn't seem like it's been as humid.
I think you're right. I actually asked Alexa earlier today what the humidity was. It said 60%, which is unheard of for this time of year.
We're usually
like
130%?
At least, yeah. It's actually more water in the air than air in the air.
Has it been sticky in Chicago this year, or has it been pretty pleasant up there?
It's been sticky, especially on the brew deck. But
up on the brew deck, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it hasn't been too crazy, nothing too wild, and we had a pretty mild winter, which was nice, but definitely had a few days quite humid and a few days getting well into the 90s, so similar.
On the brew deck, it's, steamy, hot. You try to move air around to help your cause, but it's just mostly just moving hot air more into your face than it was before. So, we're looking forward to fall already up here.
Yeah, not long we'll be getting it. We usually hit the fall. Sometimes our break point is like Halloween around then.
Yeah.
We start feeling the lower, cooler temperatures.
Speaking of, I mean, that was kind of training for Oktoberfest, basically.
Yeah, getting there. Yeah, we had enough of a little breeze there that it was, it was really nice, really pleasant with a little bit of breeze. But also popped over to Iron Shield Brewing, new brewery here. They're a huge one, specializing in, German lagers and that. And they also have kind of a dual thing there where they have their beer that they brew, but they also specialize in contract brewing. So they're doing that. And I found out that they'll actually be the first brewery in Georgia to do an NA beer, non-alcohol beer.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah,
okay.
There's a brewery called Right Side Brewing, and I think they're planning on launching this fall, but the Big Kettle is what they call their contract brewer. They're actually going to do the non-alcoholic beer for them. So be kind of cool.
Great. Tim, I think we should get into the beers of the week.
Crack open a cold one. It's the Truck and Tap Beer of the Week. Woo-hoo! Craft beer and food trucks in downtown Woodstock. Truckandtap.com.
Well, Brian, as always, we have a fantastic selection of beers to get into. Of course, from Pipeworks, we are into the Velocity of Light double dry hopped oat IPA right now. Also from Pipeworks, we've got Punch In, Punch Out hazy IPA with pineapple, cherries, and tangerines. We're going to get into on Good Word, another stop we made this weekend, Good Word Brewing. We got a couple bottles of their Hoof Prints, which is modeled off of a popular ice cream for some tracks there. And that's got peanut, cocoa, vanilla, and, of course, some lactose in a stout, Brian. So that should be pretty darn tasty. So, Brian, what's happening this week in the news?
What's in the news? The beer guys have the scoop.
Extra, read all about it.
Time for headlines.
All right, so good news, canned beer fans. Ball Corporation is adding production capacity as the can supply is dwindling and getting tighter. The new production line is coming online in Rome, Georgia, which joins the recently opened production line in Fort Worth, Texas. These new production lines will help, but even with them open, the demand will exceed supply. So to address the shortfall, 2 completely new facilities will begin operations in 2021, one in Arizona and another somewhere in the Northeast. So, part of what makes the can supply so tight is craft beers competing with wine and spirits right now because they're putting their stuff in cans as well. So,
RTD, Brian. Yeah. RTD beverages.
Exactly. So heads up, fans of Bourbon County, Goose Island has announced their 2020 Bourbon County lineup. So I, haven't been all that keen on Bourbon County over the years, just partly because AB and Bev ownership and all that, but simply because we can't get them here also due to ABV restrictions. Yeah. But I'm intrigued by a few of this year's offerings. Bourbon County's King Fog Stout incorporates tea in their beer for the first time, Earl Grey and black tea, and also honey, kind of interesting. Birthday Bourbon County Stout. Wow, it's hard to get that one out for some reason. Aged in barrels from one of my favorite bourbons, Old Forester Birthday Bourbon. That alone would have me drink that. I would get that.
Did you see the ABV on that one? Is it going to have they announced that yet?
I looked and I did not see ABVs listed. And their anniversary bourbon stout will be in Weller 12 barrels, or was in Weller 12 barrels for an extra period of time. Commemorates the 10th anniversary of their Black Friday releases of the Bourbon County line. Too.
Okay. Did I also see that they did one with a tea in it? Right.
Was the The Kentucky Fog Stout.
That's the Kentucky Fog with Earl Grey and black tea
and honey. Yes,
that'll be interesting.
That is correct.
All right, they always do some interesting stuff there.
Indeed.
Yes, we'll see. Well, you're listening to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We do need to take a break, but we'll be back very soon with more from Pipeworks Brewing.
Are you really doing Facebook right? I'm Aaron Williams, and here's your Marketing Minute. Facebook is a fantastic place to communicate with your fans. I'm sure you're using it to let people know about your specials, new beers, events. In other words, you're talking at your audience. Instead, try talking with your audience. Start conversations, ask questions, and show your fans what's going on behind the scenes. You'll make more of them, I promise. For more marketing tips and tricks, head to crafted-consulting.com/radio.
Have you ever thought about owning your own brewery but don't know what it takes to get one built? We're Storytime Construction, and we build breweries. We're Georgia's most experienced and hands-on contractors when it comes to building new breweries and tap rooms, or expanding existing breweries. We offer full build-outs, remodeling, and additions, as well as consulting and construction management. Give us a call at 770-733-4343. Storytime Construction. We build breweries.
Follow the Beer Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
To be the man, you gotta beat the man. Woo!
Now, back to the Beer Guys Radio Show.
And welcome back to the Beer Guys Radio Show. Remember, all episodes are available on demand, so if you missed the broadcast, get the podcast. Beer Guys Radio is available on all popular podcasting apps and unpopular podcasting apps. You don't have to be popular to play this game.
You don't.
No, you don't. We'll be there for you. Now let's get back to the folks from Pipeworks Brewing Company.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us. We greatly appreciate it. We're enjoying some of your beers here right now. We've got Punch In, Punch Out, a little fruited beer here. It's hazy pale ale with some fruit. Really good stuff. So, Ricky, question for you to get things rolling here. I saw something that you don't see a lot of success with this anymore, but Pipeworks was launched through a Kickstarter campaign. Is that correct?
That is correct. We were lucky enough, I think, to start like right before the craft brewery boom.
Right.
So we're going on 9 years now, and we were the third Kickstarter to finish in the beta version of Kickstarter.
Oh, really? Okay.
It was, like,
wow.
Yeah. Widely available. I don't know how it took off, but we ended up getting a lot more money than what we had originally asked for, which we were very fortunate for. And it helped us kind of start the brewery and give us what we needed to start their own beer. So, and we appreciate everybody that donated, because we are who we are now, and without them we'd be nothing. So
we had a couple, kind of like you said, that got into this early and did just great with their campaigns, but now it's like someone will launch, they're like, hey guys, we need $10,000 to get started up here, and they'll get like $640.
Yeah.
It's like, the days of those. And then that's because it just ended up getting flooded. People saw the success there, and everybody went after it. So
yeah. What is there, like 8,000 breweries?
There is
300 or something.
Yeah.
now? 300.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. How about it? Crazy stuff.
A lot of people started switching over to the GoFundMe just because Kickstarter doesn't fund unless you meet your goal. Which,
if all you got was the $600 on GoFundMe, you'll still get your $600.
That's right. You'll still get your yeah. And so it was, phenomenally successful. I was looking at it. It's like, I think it was like 10K over what you asked for, like 40K. And I think that I was looking at it. It's like, you even got matching funds from investors. That's crazy. I can't even imagine that happening right now, but those were different days. So.
Back in the good old days.
Back in the good old days. Yes, indeed. So, you know what? Another thing I noticed doing my research is your brewery has cats, like a bunch of them, and they like live there full time.
Yeah.
I've not heard of this before, where like usually they're like pets brought in, somebody's pet, but these actually live at the brewery, right?
Yeah. Well, back in the day, we got Kingston. We call him Quing, and he's on multiple of our labels. He's been on TV. He's a celebrity of sorts, I guess, and probably the greatest cat to ever walk this earth.
He sounds impressive.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
We got him to catch the mice at the old brewery before we expanded. And then the other two just kind of came into the fold. We rescued them when we were moving into the new spot, they were born in a wall. Like the place had been boarded up, and we came and looked at it and did like a final walkthrough. And they were born in the wall, and they were taken back to the original brewery and raised there. Now they're back home, and they live here at the new brewery. But yeah, they have like the greatest playground ever.
It's not about it. Now, how many cats are we talking here? Brian makes it sound like you're running a cat zoo over there.
I mean, I saw like 3 or 4, I think.
Yeah.
There at one point was 4, but the 3 original cats didn't like the new one, so he ended up with one of our drivers because we self-distribute.
All right.
So now we have 3.
Are they friendly? Do they socialize with visitors and such?
Oh yeah, I mean.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, they essentially have 25 owners that just give them love all day,
cool.
and they're like the coolest cats ever.
You guys have cat cafes in Chicago, like where you can go hang out and pay to like pet cats and that?
I don't know. Do we?
So we've
do.
got one here called Java Cats. It's like a coffee house, and then it's a room full of cats.
It's
there.
a cat terrarium.
And so we're there one time, and I'm like, oh, let's get a cup of coffee. I'm like, hey, I love cats. I'm gonna go over here and check them out. Man, those cats they went the other direction when I walked in there. It was the most disappointing cat experience ever. And as a general rule of thumb, I get along well with animals, but these cats, they weren't having it. There was one like playing underneath of some kind of stool or bench, and I reached in there and he just smacked the fire out of me with his claws. I'm like, all right, fine.
Well, those cats get so much attention. They're probably sick of people.
That's a good point. They're probably like, no, especially you. I'm not putting up with.
It's like I'm so worn out. I don't have time for your stuff, Tim.
Absolutely, yeah. Now, Scott, you've been with the brewery since the beginning. Is that correct?
That is correct. I met the 2 original owners in the very beginning, and got on board before we were even technically a company.
Well, that's good. Is Pipeworks your first brewing job, or have you were other brewing experience prior to that?
No. Pipeworks was the first professional brewing job, and we all kind of came into this together. It's a bit of an old saying, a trite saying to say like, oh, we all home brewers that gathered together and started a brewery. But at the time, there weren't a whole lot of people who had done that. So, we felt like we were kind of at the cutting edge of doing that amongst the new breweries.
Now, that's something, I know there's different challenges for established breweries and new startup breweries. And we still see, even in all this craziness, we're still seeing that there's breweries opening and planning to open. We just saw one of our, I guess, golden child breweries here in Georgia, Creature Comforts, just announced that they're opening in Los Angeles with the help of Russo, the director of the Avengers movie.
That's right.
Stuff is still going on out there. But for someone just looking to open a brewery, Scott, what do you think some of the challenges are that they need to be aware of as a new brewer in a new brewery?
Well, I think one of the things you guys already just touched on was financing, because there's so many other breweries starting up these days. It's like, how do you set yourself apart from the other breweries, not only in like your approach to the industry, but also how you're going to make yourself different, like what styles you're going to do. There's always like a return to classic styles, which is we've kind of seen come and go over the years. Like what can you do to make yourself something new to your area? And I feel like a lot of these places that have less breweries, Chicago is so saturated right now that there's nothing you could do that's new here, period.
Right.
It doesn't matter. But, I don't know how it is in Atlanta or suburban, Georgia, but you got to find your niche and maybe consider opening somewhere outside of city limits and wherever USA. But I think that's the big thing right now. It's hard to be on the cutting edge when there's so many breweries in the country.
We passed some laws here in 2017 that really changed our brewing scene in Georgia, and we've doubled, tripled in just 5 years maybe here.
Oh yeah, it's grown so fast.
Some new things here, but yeah, we saw it, and it is getting to where we're starting to fill in those gaps on the map. Kind of, the smaller towns are starting to get their breweries.
It's amazing when you don't punish people for doing what they want to do; they actually do what they want to do.
Yeah,
Crazy,
there's still a little punishment out there. Not
there's
punishment, but it's better.
It's light though. It's just a light spanking now.
Yeah,
light spanking.
Just a little bit. Just so you know, right? Now, Nate, you joined the team a little bit later. Is that right? How'd you get involved with Pipeworks?
Yeah, I've been here for about 2 years. I came from a brewery in Michigan called Old Nation.
Oh,
We're
yes.
familiar.
Big
Yes.
fans. Yep.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So I grew up in Michigan, and I lived in Chicago and San Francisco. But I got my start at a small brewery in northern Michigan in Petoskey, tiny town called Beards Brewery. So I was with them for a while, and then moved back downstate. And I was at Old Nation for a little while, but kind of wanted to get back somewhere else, maybe a little bigger town, and just saw an ad for Pipeworks and set my app in and came down for an interview and been here ever since.
We talked with Old Nation. We had them on the show once, and we talked about, I believe they're called pasties. Is that right?
Yeah, that's
We don't get those down here. We
No.
don't get them here.
I was about to ask him about Petoskey stones.
Yeah, it's a
Petoskey
Youper, right?
stones. Yeah.
UP stuff. So
yeah.
we thought it sounded great. You know, a little meat turnover with your hazy IPAs. I'm all about that. No argument for me at all.
Yeah, they're quite tasty, and they originated for the miners that used to go into the mines, and they'd bring a couple of those along for lunch.
Sounds good to me. Sounds like a plan. Absolutely.
When I'm going to work in the mine, that's what I want.
That's what you're taking with you. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Well, you're listening to the Beer Guys radio show. We do need to take another break, but we'll be back very soon to talk more with Pipeworks Brewing. You know we love good beer, and Athletic Brewing makes non-alcoholic beer that stands shoulder to shoulder with their boozy brethren. With a fraction of the calories and certified organic, it's a great beer to enjoy anytime.
Athletic's got new brews like Cerveza Atletica just in time for summer. Check out the full selection at athleticbrewing.com. Use code BG25 for 25% off your first order, and U.S. customers get free nationwide shipping. Athletic Brewing, brew without compromise.
It's Brian and Tim, the Beer Guys. If you're like us, no lunch or dinner is complete without a pint or two of craft beer.
Which is why Truck and Tap in downtown Woodstock, Alpharetta, and Duluth are always on our list. Tim, why do they call it Truck and Tap?
Well, the tap part is easy, Brian. They've got 18 of them.
As for the truck part, that's where it gets interesting. Truck and Tap features your favorite Atlanta area food trucks, so you're getting a different menu every day.
Truck and Tap in downtown Woodstock, Alpharetta, and Duluth.
Truckandtap.com. Let them know that the Beer Guys sent you.
Follow the Beer Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
I didn't enjoy it at all.
Now, back to the Beer Guys radio show.
Welcome back to the Beer Guys radio show. I want to give a quick shout out to one of our great radio affiliates, WNTK, 1020 AM and 99.7 FM in New London, New Hampshire. Catch Beer Guys Radio on WNTK every Saturday at 10 p.m. local time. Now let's get back to our conversation with Pipeworks Brewing Company.
Ricky, another question for you. We want to talk about scaling up, about growing. Pipeworks has had great success, so congratulations for that. It's always nice to do something and succeed at it, right?
Yeah, we're very thankful that people even want to drink what we're making. So yeah.
Absolutely. As you've grown, what have been kind of the major challenges for you? Have you struggled any with consistency or keeping the beer at the same level and increasing that volume?
I mean, we always put out great liquid, so we
no question, right? Yeah.
The problem that I've seen is that, so we self-distribute here in Illinois, and just trying to make sure that continually happens, and then choosing what markets so in Illinois, you can only self-distribute up to 7,500 barrels. And then after that, you have to either go with the distributor or send beer out of state. And we're at that ceiling already. We have been in Illinois for a couple of years. So then the problem after that is choosing what markets to open up to get rid of the rest of the beer, where it'll be enjoyed, where it won't sit on the shelves and fight with other breweries. Like Minnesota was a tough one because we were like, who do we go with? Because we don't want to fight with Surly, because Surly makes amazing beer. We wanted to find a smaller distributor that would focus on craft and not just be like, oh, here's Pipeworks and end up on the bottom shelf, So that's really, I think that's the biggest problem that which is a good problem to have, but.
Well, that's like we were talking earlier. We said there's 8,300 breweries in the country now. So it's a lot harder there. We think as beer drinkers, we think back to the early days. Brian and I were drinking in the 90s. So it's
indeed,
it's something at that time, you drank all the craft beers because there were only a handful.
Exactly.
So, and we're even seeing here, some of our very successful beer bars that have, 30 taps or whatever. There would have been a time when, actually, I think one story that was told to us is founders at one of our brew pubs here, or brewery or beer bars, had like 6 taps on, and now they can only give them like 1 or 2 taps at a time because there's just so much beer. And the people from founders are like, hey, what's up? They're like, hey, there's
a lot more
8,300 to choose from now,
Yeah.
So it just makes it a little bit harder.
And people want to try what's new and what's exciting.
Sure.
They don't want to try the same thing that they've had over and over, or like the seasonal from that same brewery.
Yeah, we've kind of evaluated our drink, and it's like we've got a handful of go-tos. We're always going to go back to these, but probably 20% go-tos, 80% let's try what's new here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
At least 80%.
It's a good time.
We do have our ADAs and things that we keep coming back to
Absolutely.
for sure. You mentioned that you hit a threshold, and it sounds like you're avoiding going through a distributor in state. That's an intentional thing, and why, out of curiosity?
Yeah, so the plan is to self-distribute in Illinois as long as we possibly can, and there's a number of reasons for it. But for us, the biggest one is to make sure that the beer is as fresh as it can possibly be. We make a lot of IPAs, and they obviously don't have a long shelf life. So when we self-distribute, we have our own drivers who know about Pipeworks, who know about beer, that are out there checking dates of beer on shelves every time they're out there. So we can make sure that like people are consuming the beer as fresh as possible. And we buy our own beer back, so the drivers do that as well. So that's like the biggest part of it.
I'm sold on that.
Yeah,
That's
it's
great.
I hate having to flip a can and check a date.
I'm
all the
always
time, but
doing
you
that.
have to
Always.
do that these days.
Yeah.
I pulled 9-month-old IPAs and not realize it.
Yeah. And that's what our drivers do every week when they're out there, is they flip those cans. And if it's one day past like what we want the shelf life to be, they buy it back.
Gotcha. Yeah, because when it's your beer, you can care about it. If you're one of 100 brands or whatever, it's a little harder to get that done. That makes sense. I get
That's the best place to drink Pipeworks is in Chicago in state because it's fresh. Yeah. I love that. I wish we could say the same.
Yeah, that's not always true though, because I've sent beer to New York that was shipped out the day it was packaged, and then it was in New York like 2 days later. So
there you go.
Yeah, I go out of my way to try to plan that out, where it's like, okay, I'm going to get you the beer as fresh as I possibly can. So even when it is out of state, like it's the same thing. I know the distributors don't treat it the way we do here, but that's the joy of self-distribution, is that we can control that.
I could see that. Yeah, that makes sense. And something I think maybe everybody doesn't know, but there's more money to the brewery when you're self-distributing.
Oh yeah, that's obvious.
You got to pay those guys.
A big factor there as well.
You got to pay those guys to distribute if they distribute. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff. Well, Scott, question for you there. As you guys have grown and keeping up with this, do you still get a chance to do a lot of experimental and innovative brews there?
It's actually funny that you just asked that question. We just had a recipe meeting about an hour, 2 hours ago. Lots of new experimental brews being talked about, being figured out. We are not slowing down on experimental brews. Obviously, we're not making the 90-barrel, 120-barrel batches, 150-barrel batches that we do with our core beers. But, we're still as willing as ever to kind of try new stuff. We got a lot of good ideas coming from different places, different experiences. Nate being from Michigan breweries, and people come from all walks of life. We have people that are more culinary. I'm not so much, but like we all celebrate each other's approaches. So I don't think that's ever going to stop for us. We've slowed down maybe a little bit from the early days, but that's because we're so busy with our core beers. But we still have fun with it. We still get a little crazy, get a little wild, bust each other's a little bit on what were you thinking with that one. But then we make it work, and it ends up being pretty tasty beer. So we're having fun with it.
Good stuff. Is there anything you're particularly enjoying working with right now? Any specific hop or yeast or, any craft grains or anything out there?
We've been playing around with a little bit of spelt lately. That's kind of one of the fun newer grains that's been kind of, lesser known. Obviously, like rye was kind of fun in various types of beer, but spelt is kind of something. I know it's kind of a weird historic grain, but just kind of using that. Hops hops have been a little tricky to come by these days, as we just talked about with everything going on. But I think we are just personally, if I'm responding with like continuing to have fun with the classic lager, historic styles. We're working on a recipe. I think Nate actually wrote it for a smoked Bock coming out this fall. You know, I don't know. I can't speak for everybody, but in terms of playing around with lagers, and maybe in the near to nearish future, we'll be kind of experimenting more with different ways we can play with lager yeast.
Heck yeah, that's
Smoked
what I'm
lager.
all about, man. Yeah, we actually had a beer earlier today before we went on the air with some spelt in it. It's a lotus hops with barley, oats, and spelt in a sour IPA with tangerine.
Right.
And that's from a Two Tides
Pretty
Brewing
solid.
over in Savannah, Georgia.
Isn't spelt, is that an ancestral wheat strain? Is that what that is? I'm trying to remember what that is.
Yeah, it's kind of like a historic kind of like I want to say like a hybrid kind of strain. You know, we're kind of just starting to play with it a little bit more recently, but it's definitely got like a nice earthy kind of flavor to it. Something that we've not really worked with before, but we've tried to utilize into some of our newer recipes.
It's fun seeing all this stuff out there. And like you were talking about, you know, being from Michigan, I think is it Michigan Chinook
Yes.
that are known to
yeah.
have like I think is it a cherry or something? I know there's a
I think it's a
flavor
fruitier character. I don't
Yeah.
recall what it is. I know
So-
Michigan is known for its cherries.
Well,
Yeah,
Michigan,
like-
Nate, what's going on with Michigan?
Michigan Chinook, tell us about
What's
it.
happening
Yeah.
there?
Chinook was actually when I worked at Michigan Breweries and we would buy Michigan hops. Chinook was definitely one of the better ones we would get from there. But yes, we are also known for cherries. I don't know that I ever got cherry notes from Chinook hops from Michigan.
I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I know there was a fruit note. Maybe I'm just
I think
thinking
it was
cherries 'cause
fruitier
it's
in general.
Michigan.
but
Yeah,
Mhm.
good stuff, man. Well, you're listening to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We do need to take another break, but we'll be back very soon with more from Pipeworks Brewing. It's time to take your snack back with bold flavors that complement your latest brew. Southern Recipe Small Batch Pork Rinds will do just that with flavors like Korean Kimchi Barbecue, Honey Chipotle, Cilantro Lime, and more. Munch on these beer-friendly bacon bites right out of the bag, or crush them in your favorite recipes as a substitute for breading. Find your next bag at Kroger or go to southernrecipesmallbatch.com for recipes and a buy two, get one coupon. That's southernrecipesmallbatch.com.
Craft beer forged with a reverence for tradition and new styles that start a revolution. Ironmonger Brewing. The brewers at Ironmonger Brewing pride themselves at being masters of barrel-aged, hoppy, and sour beers. They invite you to their tap room in Marietta, Georgia to taste and see. Also visit their barrel room for an intimate drinking experience with great live entertainment. Keep up to date on all things Ironmonger by liking them on Facebook. Ironmonger Brewing, establishing a new standard in craft beer.
Follow the Beer Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
I believe you have my stapler.
Now, back to the Beer Guys Radio Show.
Welcome back to Beer Guys Radio Show. If you enjoy the show, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Just go to patreon.com/beerguys. Patrons get cool perks like Beer Guys swag and commercial-free episodes.
Episodes,
One or
plural.
many.
Yes.
As many as you
on your
want.
favorite app or your least favorite
app.
Yeah.
Your least favorite episode or your favorite
Actually,
episode.
that's not true. You got to get it from Patreon.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
For
There you
commercial
go.
free.
That is correct. Well, let's get back to the guys from Pipeworks Brewing Company.
Guys, we have an important question here. This is probably the most important question that we're going to ask during this entire interview, but who makes the best Italian beef in Chicago? Is there a consensus? Ricky, is there a consensus?
Ricky is the only OG Chicago person between the three of us, so I feel like we've got to respect his opinion on the matter.
All right.
So there's this place in Oak Park, Elmwood Park, called Jay's that they don't mess around with cheese. They're just like, here's your beef. Do you want it wet? Do you want peppers? And that's it. And then
yes and yes.
And then you walk out the door. There's no messing around, and it's phenomenal. It's so good. I don't know what they do. With
the places
sauce,
that do it well, do it like that. They don't mess around.
You gotta love those places.
Do you want it wet or not? All right, here's your sandwich. Get out. Give me my money. You know.
The first time I went there, I was like, "Can I have cheese?" And the guy looks at me. He's like, "We don't do cheese here." And I was like, "Oh shit!" I was like, "All right, I'm sorry."
Yeah.
The Italian beef Nazi.
I was going to say Stoop Nazi of Italian beef there. Huh?
That's fantastic.
Like, you hit, because when I go to Chicago, I've hit Portillo's just because it's the place I know.
Oh, classic.
See, and I think it's like going to Philadelphia. Pat's and Geno's are the ones known for for the cheesesteaks there. But if you ask the locals, no one picks one of those as the best.
Yeah, I was just out there and tried both of those. And luckily, I have a really good friend that lives out there, and she was like, "No, don't waste your time with that." Yeah. But I had to try it, because
I thought it was good personally, but I'm not a local, so I don't have the skinny on the best of the best there.
Yeah, and I can't remember the place that my friend told me to go to, but it was way better than those two spots for sure.
Okay. See, I like to get ridiculous with my Italian beef. We had a place here that they called it the Al Capone, but I think it's also called maybe the Italian combo, where it's the Italian sausage and the Italian beef all together.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I remember that.
One bun,
it's a delicious combo.
Yeah.
I had it one time, and it's that perfect blend of the savory beef and the spicy sausage. And even if you think it's too much, just do it. Just do it. You'll be happy.
You don't have to eat it all. Just enjoy it. Right.
But you will. You don't have to, but
you will eat it all.
Yeah. And that's like Brian and I we're both very athletic, slim and trim guys. So we'd never eat it all. But,
we always did.
But some people might. Some people might. Sure enough there. Yeah.
Get that foot long.
What Pipeworks beer should you pair with an Italian beef?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I think the Pils would be...
Okay. I can't argue with that.
Well, it's got a cooling effect of the lager, but it's also got the spiciness of the Czech Saaz. So a little bit of best of both worlds.
Okay, yeah. I'm down.
It sounds
Count
good
me
to
in
me.
for this party, man.
I am on board.
That's one man's opinion, though.
That's one man's opinion. What can I say?
Are there other opinions? I mean, we'll hear them.
Yeah, Scott,
Nate. I just said. Oh, I mean, I agree with you, Pils.
Okay.
I think Lizard would work out pretty well. You got nice mosaic character in there to kind of balance out any spiciness. Kind of goes down smooth. Still decent body. I think nice balanced hoppy pale ale like that would work out.
Yeah. So you've got options.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
you can do what you like there. Yeah. We haven't talked a ton, guys, about your beers. We've been kind of talking about all the fun facts there, but we've enjoyed a couple of them here. Your Ninja versus Unicorn is a very, very popular. We've had several variants of your Abduction stout, which we're big fans of.
Yeah.
So what's coming up in the Abduction series? What new Abductions are we going to see?
We have some Abduction in barrels right now. We probably we might start bringing that back out and treating some of those. So to do specialty barrel aged Abduction releases, we're hitting that point in late summer, fall where those BA big stouts start to become more of a factor. Not to say people don't want to drink them in the summer, but I don't want to drink them in the summer.
Weak. I mean, what?
Stouts are for summer. I'll have
you challenge me. Now I'm going to go open a barrel and chug the entire thing just to prove you wrong.
If you really liked craft beer,
right. We have a number of barrel aged variants of them right now, and some just straight up Abduction that we can treat after the fact and kind of play around with, which we're excited about. But that's where we're at right now. Obviously, we got a lot of different stouts that we've done in the past, but Abduction has been a big part of our history. So we definitely plan on making sure that remains the case.
So I have a suggestion for a flavor, for a treatment for that. Brian, you're usually the one with the beer ideas here.
Yeah, usually I'm surprised by this.
This is mine, a stout done with Italian rainbow cookie flavor.
Okay.
So that is everybody here familiar with the Italian rainbow cookies?
I am not.
I am not either.
I feel like I heard of them, but I don't know anything.
So it's like a vanilla cake, and that's soaked in amaretto. So you've got the almond, and then in between each layer is a raspberry jam, and then that's coated with a chocolate frosting.
I'm on board.
That sounds great.
Right? So raspberry, vanilla, almond, amaretto, chocolate stout.
Raspberry, vanilla.
I smell a collab in the works.
I think we have to make
I
this
do.
happen.
I think I do.
Absolutely.
Pipeworks
Yeah, I was thinking that the other day. All these beers they do, all these crazy stouts. I don't think I've seen that one yet.
I don't recall seeing that. I looked through a lot of the abductions. I was going to ask about those. If you kind of is it kind of like whatever ideas come up to you at a given time, that's what the abduction variant is, or do you have ones that you keep reproducing, on a fairly semi-regular basis or an annual basis or something like that?
I think we're on like 13 different variants of the abduction, so we kind of like circulate through those and make sure that they're brewed far enough away so they're not like on shelves. But that one sounds amazing.
Yeah, that's
I'm not gonna lie.
I had some of those cookies the other day. I don't remember how I got introduced to them, but I'm like, man, when we're talking dessert pastry stouts, this would really be a bang up flavor for this. So.
Yeah, I mean,
I thought you were fixing to go with what is it? Is it Spumoni? Is there an ice cream called Spumoni?
That's Italian Spumoni.
I think there's a Bourbon County variant this year that's coming out that is based off of that or something like that.
No,
so
this is all original.
This is all original. All right.
They definitely stole that from us.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we have a Spumoni Jones dog, which is our milk stout with strawberry, vanilla, and chocolate. That was amazing.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So Goose Island ripped us off.
So
can you Goose Island? Yeah.
I think that's, don't quote me on that. I think that's happening. Does anybody at the brewery have an abduction story? Have any of you been abducted by aliens?
I think working here, we all kind of got abducted by what the hell.
They don't want to say anything.
Yeah.
It got quiet.
I'll say this. The X-Files is my favorite show of all time, and I wish I could be abducted because they make it seem glamorous.
Yeah.
But no, sadly, no.
In that case, you believe there are aliens out there. Are they pastry-based life forms? That's something I've been meaning to ask somebody, and I think you guys are the right people to ask.
Why do you do this, Brian?
Because I have to, Tim. I simply have to.
Pastry-based life forms?
Pastry-based life forms. Did you see their labels? Have you seen their beers? They're clearly pastry-based life forms.
Okay. All right.
I've already answered the question, but you guys, please feel free to add to that.
I get the feeling Brian doesn't even need you guys for the interview.
Not really.
There, so.
I really filled in for you there.
I can neither confirm nor deny that they are pastry-based life forms, in fact.
I think that if they are, it happened in the past 7 years.
Very likely.
There you go. Absolutely. Well, guys, what is next for Pipeworks? What should people be keeping an eye out for?
That's hard to say because we make so many crazy beers throughout.
To kind of expand on what I was talking about earlier, we got we're not slowing down on any of the new weird stuff in the pipeline, riffing off of, desserts or other popular beverages that may or may not be already alcoholic. I almost feel like the doors have been opened more in the past couple years towards what we might try.
Okay,
But at the same time, not forgetting about the classics and still continuing to explore, like with the smoked Bach. Like, don't forget every part of the spectrum of beer. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's fun. I saw that, you guys are doing some cocktail beers. I've seen more of those. Those are fun. And so it's kind of cool to be at a time where delicious Pilsners and ridiculous pastry stouts are both hot items.
They could live side by side, contrary to popular belief.
That's right. We love them all. We're totally cool with it.
They can coexist. Guys, if people want to keep up with what's happening with Pipeworks, where should they go?
Our Instagram, Facebook page, Twitter, obviously, any social media platform. You can join our mailing list, our email list. Yeah, there's multiple ways. Instagram is probably the funnest one.
So many ways. Go to Instagram. Get Pipeworks.
Do you do chain
Instagram.
letters, like old school chain letters? Because those would be cool. Or like fax subscriptions. Those are neat too.
Sure.
Forward this letter or all your IPs.
I could drop Ricky's cell phone number if you want to text him directly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Please
do that. Address. Absolutely. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Of course.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
You bet. Absolutely. Well, that about wraps it up for this episode of the Beer Guys Radio Show. Join us next week as we talk with Wyoming's Luminous Brewhouse. For more craft beer info, follow us online. We are Beer Guys Radio on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great week, and don't forget to drink local. Cheers.